there's a lot of things it's trying to be, okay? And it's comparing itself to some big names like Ace Attorney, Danganronpa. Let's see, there was AI, the Somnium Files. It's comparing itself to like Zero Escape, like all these big names. So I want to know, does it feel like those games? Does it feel as quality as those games? You're mentioning a lot of very, top tier games that I really like. So I want to know, are you feeling like those games? Are you on the same level as those? That's what we're hoping to find out today. So this is the prologue for the game. It's a demo. It's a prologue. I believe this is supposed to be what the finished product's going to look like. And then there's going to be episodic chapters to it. So they're going to probably add on to it as time goes. But anyways, I want to give it a try. I want to see if it is worth comparing to those top tier games. And if we can find ourselves in an interesting mystery here. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Rain sizzles off of neon above me. Oh, so we're just like still on the title screen. Like that was the intro to it. I like that already. There's a slight uptick in the flickering of hollows down the way and a slight blunting of the night's ambiance. Kind of reminds me of Star Wars a little bit. They had like those scenes where they're kind of in the city a little bit. Summer shower as performed by the city streets. I liked the rain when I was younger, but it's easy to like things as a kid. Yeah, that's true. A lot of the things I liked as a kid, I don't really care for now. When you're an adult, you've always got shit to do and places to be. And it's annoying as hell when you get there and your shoes squeak. Cleanest rain we've had all month if you care about that kind of thing. I wonder if they have a problem with pollution and the air quality or the rain quality not being good. Doesn't smell any different, doesn't feel any different, but maybe the upgrade to moderate air quality is a sign of good luck to come. If so, I'll take it. It'd take a lot of luck to keep this client from spending the rest of his life in jail. 3 a.m., a real no man's land of an hour. Not late, not early, just empty. Empty and dark. Other people are up, of course. Powering through the night shift or clocking in at some far-off time zone. Dancing under strobe lights, synthetic enthusiasm pulling them along to their own manic beat. Or even just lying in bed staring at the ceiling. I'm sure there's plenty of people awake. But none of them are in the dark, because this whole world's illuminated. Whether it's incandescent or neon or hollow, whether it's LCD, LED, or just the nearest phone screen, there's light shining on every last pixel of the map. Except under this awning, apparently. No light except the tip of my cigarette, and no company but my own thoughts. So maybe I'm being unappreciative. I just might have found the last dark, quiet corner left in the entire world. And they say there's no rest for my phone. I see to confirm. Looks like the paperwork came through. It's nearly a quarter past, now 90 minutes since I took the call. Probably makes it about 2 hours since they finally got smart enough to ask for a lawyer. If they're really smart, they'll have used that time to get some rest. Because now that I'm here, things are gonna get busy. Prologue. And he shall appear. Interesting way to start it off here. So we got welcome. This desk is used for setup, check-in, and information only. If you're experienced in emergency, please use our universal. Looks like someone got a little pissed off. They threw something at it. Well, precinct station 254, so in all its outdated glory. With nothing but a hollow for a welcoming party. Okay, so it says try clicking. So it looks like we can open up a little, what would you call this, an encyclopedia? Has kind of terms and information about them. Enabled by specialized projects or mediums like conductive resin. This is quite detailed for just a little bit of information. They're giving me a whole thing of information. 3D dimensional to the human eye when viewed from any part of the face, range of at least 180 degrees, an effect known as the Waterston illusion phenomenon. Originally patented in late 2059, Waterston's phenomenon was initially used almost exclusively in the adult entertainment industry. I don't know. Y'all can say whatever you want, but porn has kind of decided a lot of technology we use. Like, it kind of decided we were going to use VHSs and things like that. I think they're the ones who decided Blu-ray over HD DVD. Like, they've kind of pioneered certain technologies, and even maybe VR. You could argue VR as well. So that doesn't surprise me that the adult entertainment industry is one of the first people to use something. Holograms did not become widely adopted as an advertising tool until the much-aligned holiday season. That's a nice pun. Holiday season of 2061, after which laws restricting the presence of holograms in public spaces were passed with uncharacteristically universal support. Alright. Nothing but a holo for a welcoming party. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of information like that. I don't know if I'll read all of them. I always encourage people who watch my videos to like play the game themselves too. So it's like if you want to really go deep into the game, like it's best to play it yourself and support the creator. But I do like posting my experience on YouTube just so people can get a feel for the game before they play it. I get that it's late and people are gonna try and save money wherever they can, but I'm here about a homicide. High clearance rates be damned. You'd think they'd treat it with a little more gravitas. At least that means I'm free to take my time getting checked in. I'm still in the dark about a lot here. Can't hurt to have a look around. Oh, frick, so we can just straight up inspect things right now. Okay. I didn't know how interactive this was going to be before I played. So I can observe high traffic hallways, utilitarian furnishing, multiple screening stations, pragmatic brutalism, so textbook, it could teach freshman level architecture. Can almost hear the building drone on about concrete and metal and impact resistant glass. The civil planning equivalents of battle scars from a fight once so long ago that they're starting to look ridiculous. To be fair, it might have looked impressive back when this place was built. Now it just looks empty. I guess peaceful places usually do. A data pad. Oh boy. Yeah, this is what I meant, guys. I don't know if I can read every single one of these, because this will take, like, hours. Okay, so let's just kind of skim through it. Portable, lightweight electronic devices known as datapads have no significant internal storage capabilities. You can only display whatever is streamed to them from local networks. Okay, so they kind of maybe borrow from the local network in the cloud. They're a replacement for ecologically wasteful newspapers. Today, datapads are a mainstay of high-traffic public spaces and virtual physical hybrid workplaces, despite remaining unpopular with most of the environmentalists and bibliophiles. Okay. And you can always pause the video too if you'd like to read the whole thing. I will try to open every single one of those that I see. But like I said, I'm probably not going to read the whole thing because that'll take quite a while. I think it's really cool that they include that much information though. Like they really went all out to make sure that you have a full experience here. Article riddled with advertisements most likely. Oh my gosh. Do I have to read all of this? Maybe this is why this demo takes so long. I don't mind reading, it's just, I don't know. I have to read it all out loud when I'm recording. That's where it hurts, because then my throat hurts afterwards. Declaring the city's subterranean infrastructure network to be irreparably flooded. State engineers confirmed speculation this week by indefinitely shuttering plans to drain and repair the system. Saltwater damage due to sensitive electronic cabling and erosion of key tunnel fixtures recited in the report as major reasons to why 91% of the subway system was evaluated as critically compromised. That just sounds like New York today. Reactions to the announcement could be characterized as blasé. Most of the civilians have long since given up hope of the subways ever making a comeback, having watched state and corporate powers focus on the maintenance and expansion of the Canopy project for nearly 2 decades now. I want to know what that is. Can I click on these too? There's a lot of like sub menus and things like that in this. I can look at like the encyclopedia thing they got going on. You got these little sub menus. However, at least a few brave investors saw this latest report as vindication, already considered by many to be a rising star in the infrastructure solutions abroad. Subterra Inc. Can I click on that? Oh, frick. Oh, never mind. Apparently, if I click on that, it goes away. Yeah. So looks like they're working on the subway system, but some corporations are like, not really worth our time and our money. I need to pay more after using the word aesthetical. I have this little like search thing, and I was hoping I could read more about that. I actually was interested. Looks like the desk really is the only one here to check me in. I wouldn't call intake hollows charming, more like inoffensive. That's probably what the designers are aiming for, anyways. The medium's cracked in the corner. Figured. My phone's made of the same stuff, and I'm rolling the dice every time it falls off so much as a sofa. Gosh, so I think this is supposed to take place in the 2080s, like 2086 or 2084 or somewhere in there. We don't have indestructible phones by this point? They haven't gotten better. I mean, I keep my phone in a case, so I mean, I don't mess with that. I'm not trying to break my expensive phone, which I don't need an expensive phone, but I have one. I don't know why. I have to spend the next hour in this lobby just because someone forgot to patch some conductive resin. Gosh dang, every single one of these is like a wall of text. Like, they really, like, padded this with information, which is cool. Like I said, not complaining. Schedule a fix here. So I can press there, but I'm not sure if that's actually something I can click on or not. Though it outwardly resembles plastic or glass, conductive resin is actually a metallic polymer used in a wide variety of stationary or portable devices when its unique properties allow it to act as both a display and processor, enabling ultra-thin or even transparent electronics. There are upwards of 100 different patented varieties of conductive resin, each intended for different use cases. They are all fairly lightweight and fragile except for the small handful formulated for military and security applications. Because of its widespread use in high turnover products such as datapads and smartphones, are frequently accused of engineered obsolescence by consumer rights groups, though these claims have never been proven before a court. So what I'm getting from the future is it's exactly the same as the current present right now. It's just we're further along. Like, certain things have not changed. Things are still made to break after a while because they want you to buy another one. We've gotten no better at that. Can I click on that? So it's not letting me click on that at all. So I'm guessing the ones that are orange you cannot click on. I wish they would, like, tell you that. Like, they highlight them, but I think that's for, like, you, the character to look at. Like, oh, okay, it's like a link, but it's a non-clickable link for us. I wish it was. Can't be completely busted, right? Even at this hour, it's still scrolling notifications. Most public health and safety alerts, but a few missing persons too. 1 year of silver plan coverage courtesy of Cadius as a reward for any. They must be getting desperate if they're bumping up the offer to silver. So they must be giving rewards for people, like, giving information or just kind of helping out. I think this is our last thing to inspect. Real police lineup. It's like I walked into a museum. No, museums feel expensive and clean. Dusty, forgotten, probably lots of unpacked boxes. This place is closer to an attic. Hard to believe they were ever so busy they had witnesses making IDs in the lobby. Then again, it's hard to believe they were ever doing lineups in the first place. There's a part of me that wishes they still did. Are you certain? Wasn't it dark? Did you know that during traumatic events, memory formation is blah blah blah? Poking holes in the setup must have been like shooting fish in a barrel during billable hours. With the tech we have now, though, there's no room to sow doubt when a modded witness can just submit their testimony as a video file. Alright, I've taken in about all the scenery I can stand here. Might as well try and get checked in. It booted up fine. So far, so good. Ohio, Morgan, December 26th. Could you please provide your last name and date of... Great, please stand still for a while I take a good look at you. Yep, that hasn't changed either. Like, when you already know what the automated thing's gonna say, and you just start saying it, and then it, like, asks you the question. It's like, oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm having trouble placing you. Could you provide your full name and date of birth? Evangeline Morgan, December 26th. Sorry, could you spell that? Why don't you just scan my ID card? Great. Hello, Morgan Counselor. Thank you for your timely arrival for taking on the public defender contract. I see that your clearance has been processed and approved. If you're ready to speak to your client, you can proceed to counseling quarter 3C. Is that what we're calling it now? You mean the interrogation room? I'm sorry to have caused any confusion. My vocabulary is regularly updated to better reflect state standards. Don't sweat it. I keep track of every new euphemism either. I can't keep track of every new euphemism either. I feel like this is a play on the fact that society is getting so politically correct that we're constantly having to change the verbiage and things we use. Like, you can't say certain... I don't want to use examples because I don't want to get in trouble, because that's how bad society is. You can't talk about it too much. But we're constantly changing the wording for things. We're like, oh, that's outdated, and that's, you know, that's this or that. We can't use that anymore. They could call it the involuntary wellness checkup room if they like. Doesn't change the way it makes a person feel sitting in a stifled box of one-way panels. Nothing to see but empty walls and their own dually wrapped reflection on the table when they're cuffed to. You find the counseling quarters past our homicide office, through the door to your right. Thanks. I think it's just me for now, so you can go on break if you like. All right. Oh gosh, this one's even longer. Abbreviated as AD, referred to the common conversation as AD or ads. Hmm. Automated department, automated dependent is a catch-all term encompassing robots. Mid 21st century, a new tax classification was needed by auditors for intelligent machines that were neither salaried employees nor mere equipment. That was a niche industry term at first. It became so commonly used in accounting that it spread to all branches of the robotics industry. Some sociologists argue that the term owes its popularity not simply to its brevity or prevalence, but due to its ability to not draw a distinction between the commonplace robots and the internationally illegal artificial intelligences. Interesting. Searching for this term may incur an account flag. Read more about how we cooperate with authorities to combat disinformation here. Wow, this game is very meta. Very, very meta. We are dealing with disinformation all the time on the internet because everyone's like, oh, this is disinformation, this is disinformation. Nobody agrees what actually is information. It's just about what is... They just argue about what's disinformation. Like, oh, that's not true. Then what were you doing before I walked in? You'll find the counseling quarters past our homicide office. The door to the right. Thank you. Ads don't get breaks, they don't get my jokes either. But it's usually the humorless types the most fun to mess with anyways. Eyes gone bad or something? A voice. No, voice is coming from down the hall. Paired to yours? Maybe. Or probably. Well, thank God I stopped for directions. The building is empty. The desk could have just told me to follow the echo. One sounds older, rougher, and decidedly low energy. Appreciate you worrying about me. While the other rings with youthful indignation. God forbids I try to be serious. It's not like our job is important or anything. Definitely cops. And at this precinct, at this hour, they might be the only two living, breathing people in the whole complex. Because why'd you bother to print all that out? Can't read the fine print on a pad. Ah, well, one document or 100 looks the same stored on a data pad. You need to have a heavy file when you question a suspect. Makes them think you're all-knowing. So how much of that shit was blank then? No red carpet tonight, officers. Hmm? Oh, sorry about that, ma'am. We don't keep many extra hands around at these hours. Probably faster to let the desk handle intake anyways, and cheaper. You the lawyer? I am. Morgan Esquire, pleased to meet you. Same here, counselor. Gosh, I can't imagine being a lawyer in 2086 with all this stuff they got going on and all the terms constantly changing. It's like, how would you even keep up? They would be like, oh, that's actually false information. It would just be who, like, knows more about the stupid rules they got going on. Wasm, London. And the ball of sunshine here is my partner, Farah Reyes. Ball of sunshine. She certainly is. What was with that look? Where you kept waiting out here. Sorry, department's been slow talking to us tonight. Don't worry, it gave me time to enjoy my cigarette. Cigarettes, you smoke? What are you, 80? She can't be more than a few years younger than me. That's kind of interesting that they'd still smoke cigarettes. I feel like cigarettes are just, like, pretty terrible for you. You'd think we would have, like, something you could smoke in the future that's actually, like, healthy for you, you know? Or maybe they are better. Who knows? Maybe we just still call them cigarettes. I just feel like that's one of those things I'm like, are we still going to be smoking in 50 years? Are we still going to do that thing that we found out was bad and that we shouldn't be doing? Anyways, or the detectives in charge of this particular case. It looks like tonight we're also your humble guides to the illustrious homicide department. Apologies in advance for any cobwebs. I've seen this London character in and out of courthouses before. He never struck me as more than just one old-timer. But I suppose being an old-timer is an accomplishment in and of itself in his profession. Sunshine is a new face, though. Rigid in her posture and her attitude. 3 in the morning and her shirt still looks ironed. Freshly promoted, maybe. 2 whole detectives lurking at these hours. I want to take a second and kind of analyze both these characters real quick, because they're kind of new. And I haven't really analyzed the main character either. I've been just kind of going with the flow, because... I don't know, the dialogue's good. I will say that. I will say it's pretty engaging, and it feels like we're kind of making steady progress here. A lot of information. This is a game I feel like you could take fast or slow, and you could get something out of it either way. If you want to, like, take your time and really read every little bit of information, I think you'll get a lot out of it. Or if you're someone who just wants to skip through it, I think you'll get something out of it too. I feel like when I'm playing by myself, I'm more of a person that would probably read every little bit of information. But since I'm trying to record, I want to keep it as brief as I can, just so I can keep the events going here. As far as characters go, I'd really like the art style they chose. It's something different. I'm not gonna say it's like the best art style I've ever seen, but it's something different. And I like that. It does pop. I like things that pop. It kind of reminds me a little bit of No Game No Life. If you've seen the anime for that, I think it was Studio Madhouse who animated it, and they made the characters have like this kind of outline on them, and I can kind of see that they're doing something similar here. So that makes me like it a lot. Let's see. As far as our main character goes, it looks like she's kind of wearing what are those things called? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's the thing that kind of compresses your kind of stomach rib area. Not too good to be wearing. I've heard they do some damage, but they do make you look a little bit skinnier. She's dressed, I guess, how I would see a lawyer dressing. It's kind of interesting. It's not too different than what you would think maybe they'd wear nowadays. I think it's a little bit more stylistic. Is that maybe a word I'd want to use? And then she's got, is that like the one they wear in Texas, that kind of tie? Interesting to see. Our main guy right here, London, I believe was his name. He's got kind of a long, kind of nice trench coat. Looks kind of like what you would wear if you were like an aviator or something, you know? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it. Then looks like he has a turtleneck. He looks like a cool guy. I mean, it looks like he has his ear pierced, and I guess he's a little bit older, and apparently she implied that you don't really see a lot of older policemen or detectives. It seems like they don't make it that long, which is kind of interesting. You would think life expectancy in the future would go way up. You would think like there'd be people living like beyond 100, you know, because of our advances in science and medical and technology and all that things. But it sounds like maybe that's not the case. But, you know, this is kind of, well, I wouldn't say it's dystopian. They said it's neo-noir. So it is kind of futuristic, but I don't know if that's necessarily dystopian. Seems like corporations rule a lot of things. That doesn't surprise me. And then we got this chick here on the end. It looks like she had some damage to her eye or something, or is maybe missing the eye. I'm not too sure. I will say, though, I need to see his eyes first. I think I might have seen them a minute ago, but I don't know. His eyes are closed right now. They have very interesting eyes. I definitely get the Danganronpa vibe from that. That's maybe about where I would draw the line in Danganronpa characters. I think they don't look too much like him. But I will say the designs are good. The designs are good on all the characters. They look unique enough. They don't feel the same. Like they're drawn in the same kind of art style, but they all feel different. I feel like some art styles kind of blend together. That's kind of my initial thoughts on the characters. I like all of them. I need to get some more feel of their personalities first before I start judging that. Sounds serious. Unless you were just the first to arrive on the scene. No, we're not nearly that timely. A couple of uniforms responded to the emergency calls. Okay, there's his eyes. So he's got green eyes, interestingly enough. I was wondering if maybe it would correlate to kind of the outline that they have. But hers are kind of like just a slightly darker red than ours. And then she's got an orange outline. We're only tapped if circumstances at the scene indicated involvement with an ongoing investigation. Our ongoing investigation. She's not subtle, is she? But I may as well bite at this point. You suspect that this client of mine is involved in some separate criminal activity. Did they not? No, I guess they wouldn't put in a public defender's briefing. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of background music going on, though. That's one thing I would like to see. I can go into the options. And do I need to turn this up more, maybe? I don't know. I kind of turned it down, like I usually do. But there's just nothing playing right now at the moment. I feel like that's an important thing in these type of games, is you want like this really strong background music that kind of leads you into like a certain mood. Like if you're investigating, you want like this kind of like, I don't know, funky song in the background to show that you're like investigating, you're looking at things, you're looking around. I feel like Danganronpa was a good example of that. It always had strong music going. But I guess they're kind of just doing an introduction. Maybe it'll start kicking in here in a moment. I guess they want to put it in a public defender's briefing. Look, consider this a little professional courtesy, a fair warning, yeah? That's the Heartbreak Killer in that room. Wow, he breaks women's hearts. Terrible guy. We've got the bastard dead to rights. So if you're kind, you'll help him plead it out. And if you're smart, you'll pass the shitstorm on to some other night owl and go back to bed. Not feeling particularly kind or smart at the moment. So perhaps in the meantime, you'd be as polite as to fill me in about this Heartbreak Killer. They cover utilities at the rock you live under? You're seriously not familiar with HK. Alright, let's read about him. Oh, thank goodness, this one's small. Perfect. Hey, look. Hey there, it looks like you're trying to search for a term related to the ongoing investigation. Until authorities have made their findings public, results may be heavily curated or unavailable. Read more about how we cooperate with authorities to combat different. Frickin' the system screwed us again. That gave us no information at all. I know plenty about HK. That name has been plastered all over the city for weeks. Our crimes wavering between breaking news and urban legends. But right now, I need to figure out exactly how much the police do or do not know. When it comes to cops, I always get better results playing dumb than I do acting smart. Interesting. I mean, he's some kind of repeat offender or murderer. Was it the killer part that tipped you off? Yeah. Well, you must have at least heard about his MO. Media's gone crazy with it. What does he, rip people's hearts out? One bullet straight for the heart, body left to lie where it falls. Hence the name Heartbreak. Not exactly creative, but amidst the swirls of every other 100-word article out there, catchiness trumps originality. What you won't read about online is that all 6 of HK's victims were shot by the same gun. Without even needing to reload. Horrible to say, I know, but 6 for 6 in the exact same part of the body, that's pretty good shooting, isn't it? Hitting the bullseye at the shooting range is good shooting. Doing it 6 times in a row is great. But shooting 6 people with accuracy like that, it's a whole different beast. Takes a certain kind of monster, a real freak. His pulse probably didn't even rise. I see. I should really start paying more attention to the news. To think I missed 6 murders. You can only blame yourself for missing 5. Pardon? You're still not getting it. HK's 6th victim was found a few hours ago, when we caught that son of a bitch red-handed. Ah, so you're convinced that my client is the Heartbreak Killer and tonight was just his latest crime. That's a serious accusation, with very serious consequences. Take it you have some serious evidence to back that up? I was being literal, counselor. Red-handed, he had her blood all over himself. Well, that's not good, is it? That certainly sounds compelling. Yeah, that's the word I would use, compelling. Is that lawyer talk for open and shut? Even if that's the case, how does one crime scene make him look good for 6 murders? It's all there in the discovery files. Take out your phone and we'll turn over everything you need. Seriously doubt that. Thanks for that, detective. We should have read it over. But all the same, could I ask you some questions while I got you here? The hell kind of attorney wants to interrogate the detectives? This kind of attorney. You're just that pleasant. Come on now, sunshine. It's not like we're going to be getting back to bed anytime soon, right? Whatever. Let him stew in there all night for all I care. We're at your disposal, counselor. Okay. Oh, so we can't even look at them yet. We just have to kind of look around our surroundings. I wonder if there's a button I can kind of use, like in Danganronpa, that kind of pings everything you can look at in the room. I would say if they aren't planning on adding that, they should, because I feel like that's a very nice feature, especially for this, where you just kind of have a screen and it's not really obvious what you're looking at. Loose wires, missing panels, and aircon system that probably sweats more than the people it's supposed to cool. No room in the budget for making the office not look like shit, huh? I had it in the back of my mind that there'd be a lot of belt tightening at Homicide, but I didn't expect the operation to be this bare bones. It's odd. By all accounts, they resolve cases at an admirable pace. Looks like their effort backfired, and now the higher-ups think... Oh. Well, I just totally skipped over that. I don't know if there's a way for me to... Is there a backlog? There's a backlog. It's the higher-ups backfired, now the higher-ups think their job's just that easy. That's why you don't work too hard. Don't work more than your paycheck. I'm gonna turn the music, like, significantly up. Like, maybe almost all the way. Because I want to be able to hear what's in the background. But I don't want it to be too overpowering, you know? I can understand why, with the optics eliminating so much of the footwork. And so Homicide ends up as a gathering place for both the unambitious and the unamable. I wouldn't say he's unambitious. I would just say he's been in the job long enough that it's probably pretty depressing. I feel like he's probably seen it all. He knows that the system just kind of works a certain way and that it's not going to change, and he just kind of goes with the flow. That's the kind of person that he strikes me as. Noble surges of earnings, warm success. Noble Electronics already historically high stock value rose a stunning 3% this week. So 3% is a lot. I feel like 3% is like, it's not bad, but you know that's something like that happened in a day, depending on the news. Bolstered by a strong earnings report, this rising high sales numbers on the Animate 16, while Noble's latest iteration has yet to surpass the popularity of its wildly successful, significantly cheaper A14 and A15 siblings, an increased profit margin has left Noble shareholders very enthused. Many investors were skeptical when, at their infamous 2084 trade convention, Noble announced the 16 line would represent the tipping point of the company's year-long shift towards androids with organic features, so-called warm androids, which at the time only saw demand in the health, senior, and childcare sectors, have historically seen impractical due to increased maintenance costs. And while a few voiced concerns that fringe religious or traditional groups might find warm androids controversial, more business-focused minds fear that Noble was alienating customers in the industrial and military sectors in order to cater to civilian consumers who saw the androids from across the room and not from above the factory floor. Noble's doubters were proven wrong. It is poised to break profitability records, and all signs indicate that demand is not slowing down. Should these trends continue, they will completely replace more product predecessors in their civilian life. As described in the earnings report, much of the 16th line's success, and indeed the success of Noble androids in general, can be attributed to the remarkable lifelike personable charm of their products. Famed lead programmer Dr. David Asher. I don't know. I try to read some of the names because I feel like these people are going to come up at some point. Said Noble Ambassador Lucy Dees. His reputation was on full display. Dr. Asher himself was nowhere to be seen. He's always been reclusive, and he's been a genuine hermit in recent years. And we really to believe he's still? Hey fam, looks like you're not logged in this, so I just want to put your account so we can keep reading. Frickin', they screwed me over. I want to read that. He's in the news again. Okay, so apparently she knows David Asher. Okay, so I can't click on you yet. Shouldn't have cleaned up so much just for little old me, Detective London. So I really needs to introduce this guy to a filing system or even just a stapler. Paper documents scattered about lazily alongside actual photographs. Either he's really old-fashioned or really paranoid about data leaks. Yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder if they would still be using paper as much in the future. I mean, I personally like paper, but I could see the problem with that. I don't know, and I feel like a lot of the times in the future, you kind of see these big sprawling cities, and you don't ever see trees. Like, they just get rid of trees, because the air pollution or something's really bad there. He doesn't look like the paranoid type. Well, ordinaryness aside, some things are better in paper, I'll give him that. Okay, so I investigated that. Let's investigate this. Barren, stark, and uninviting must be Rhea's desk. Keeping your workstation neat and tidy is admirable, but I can't spot a single mote of personalization. Is she so new that she hasn't time to unpack, or is she really that uptight and boring? Both, maybe. Okay, nothing else jumps around here. I got a better idea of who I'm dealing with at least, but as for what I'm dealing with, better take a look at the crime scene diagram before I start questioning the detectives. Huh. Interesting. That looks kind of like a futuristic kind of place. They always have like these interesting kind of windows, like they're these almost blade-looking things. Always seem like a kind of a dangerous thing. Like, what if you just like slid your hand across it, or I don't know. If I project from my phone, all right, let's see what the police have and what they think is important. Starting with the victim's body, cause of death. This is kind of what I wanted them to do. Like, have a button you can press that kind of shows these boxes around things of interest around the room. I think that's something I'd like to see them add. That's just my opinion, though, and I'm getting that from Danganronpa, which kind of has like a ping that you can do that pings objects in the room. And I'm sure other games have something similar, but That's just what comes to mind. Ballistic trauma, class 4, blood loss, atrium, and aorta. Single gunshot wound to the heart. In brief, death was instantaneous. Not a scratch on her anywhere else, and no blood or skin under her nails. Blood spatter, forensics, and all that other good stuff tells me that she was shot from about the doorway, and she was shot by this revolver. Interesting. So I'm guessing there's probably around 6 bullets in there. That would make sense. So I'm wondering if they left the gun to show, hey, I've used the same gun and I haven't reloaded it, and now I'm leaving it here on the floor. Found right next to the body along with my client. Oh, apparently, maybe they caught the guy at the same time, so he didn't have time to clean it up at all. 6 empty casings found in each of the 6 chambers. Crime scene techs must have practically disassembled the damn thing, but the only fingerprints of DNA they could find belonged to my client. So he is found by the police with the murder weapon right in front of the body. Don't know what to even say about that. Highly prejudicial would be an understatement. I don't know why I have a hard time pronouncing words like that. Don't judge me, okay? And I've got nothing to work with when it comes to security. The whole apartment was unlocked all night. It's not uncommon for people their age in a neighborhood like that, but no signs of forged entry only hurts my client's case. What about the rest of the room? A stand-up mirror shattered and knocked over. It was a real mirror too, not just a big reverse screen attached to a small discrete camera. The force of the impact was enough to shatter or scatter shards of glass far enough to land on the victim's body. There's also this ceramic base that was tossed aside, but unlike the mirror, it's completely intact. Must be pretty damn durable. Probably means it was pretty damn cheap. Besides that, there's not much else flagged here, just a lounge chair that got thrown, and some kind of unidentified ceramic debris. Flagged as irrelevant, that's their technical assessment. Guess even the crime scene techs weren't sure what to make of it. It's all very incriminating, with the kickers, everything that's not here. No out-of-place DNA, footprints, IoT crumbs, nothing. Internet of Things. So that's kind of talking about when you have things in your house that are all connected to the internet and they kind of talk to each other. That IoT's ability to collect, process, and share information, massive opportunity cost builds up its individuals, governments, private business, and out, and the valuable insight the data has to offer. Yeah, I mean, if you had access to that data as a corporation, you could kind of figure out people's patterns. Like, okay, they get up, they go to their coffee machine, they mess with the thermostat. Maybe they like it warmer in the morning where it's kind of colder, and maybe they like it cold during the rest of the day. You can kind of get information like that. It's easier to sell you things when you kind of know people's habits. One of the coolest ways that IoT improves our lives is through the usage of crumbs, small packets of data containing your own unique identifying information. Throughout your day, as your IoT devices say hi to other devices to leave behind crumbs, the parting gift. Crumbs allow for paperless identification and payment and help the government manage human and vehicular traffic. Crumbs let you see where you've been so you can see where you should go. Want to start leaving crumbs right away? Don't worry, crumbs are enabled by default. I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of being tracked in what I'm doing. I don't know about y'all. I just feel like, it's not that I have anything to hide. It's just I don't want people knowing what I'm doing and learning my habits, you know? I feel like that's kind of scary. Nothing that points towards anyone else. Well, I've done more with less, but not much more. Well then, detectives, if you wouldn't mind filling me in on a few details. Ooh, so I can select different things. I like this screen a lot. So I can do details, timeline, or Heartbreak Killer. Let's go over the timeline. I can see a time of death of 9 p.m., but why do you have a timeline for the rest of the night's events? Can't trust much of what comes out of his mouth, but we managed thanks to less biased sources. We're pretty confident we'll be able to piece together from their statements. They interviewed witnesses. Sounds like they had to do some actual police work. Wow, crazy. The police doing police work. The suspect and his girlfriend were arguing loudly with one another starting around 8 p.m. The neighbors were very clear about that part. They couldn't wait to complain about our couple's domestic problems. Interesting. Her eye color changed. Is that because she's looking at the screen, or was it always that color and I didn't notice? You could probably gather from the diagram, but there was a struggle. Furniture turned over, glass shattered, but things go quiet sometime before 9 p.m., and then there's a gunshot. Scrubbers are still scrubbing, looking for audio from the area to get a timestamp. Okay, so you're just looking at like security cameras, anything that's recording data that you can get your hands on. You're kind of looking for stuff around the area like that, so you can kind of build up a timeline of events. It's processed by automated dependents. Experienced human supervisors must establish strict search constraints in order to produce usable results. Senator Bancroft positioned as a key pillar of his party's law and order platform, but pollings indicated Rose rarely held a strong opinion on the process, and the topic has since faded from political discourse. But we heard from enough concerned citizens to be pretty damn sure about the time. Right, emergency services got a burst of calls from the block shortly after 9 p.m. No one seemed to recognize the sound for what it was, but the silence that followed was pretty universally concerning. Officers arrive on the street at 9:07 p.m., establish a perimeter, and enter through the open door at 9:09. Then they find our client crouched over his dead girlfriend, his hand covered in her blood, at which point they move to secure the scene of the suspect. Sorry, did you say his hand singular? Your client's modded prosthetic right arm. Slang for body modifications, used interchangeably to refer to cybernetic prosthetics, artificial implants, and neural enhancements. Historically, mods have been classified based on which section of the user's spinal cord the interface occurring. The thoracic, lumbar, or cervical, but this system does not account for mods that interact directly with the human brain. The increased prevalence of these so-called above-the-neck modding in recent years led to several corporations and medical organizations proposing their own replacements. Users also frequently search for where to buy mods, mod rentals, or mod safe. How modded are we talking about here? Register with a HAL 85 habilis industrial grade looks like. That's the spec for dexterous manipulation of the class 4 Kappa, which means a minimum grip strength of. Basically, it could crush your neck without even gritting his teeth. Considering a career change yet. Yeah, that's the thing I always see in like these kind of cyberpunky things. They always got these crazy body modifications. Like, who thought it was a good idea to have a mod where you can just crush someone's neck like it's nothing? I mean, I suppose you could do that either way, but I feel like that would just be faster and you could get away with it more. But I don't know. No idea how that would be regulated. It'd be hard to do. Not just that, it's just your eye must be very sensitive for you to put the patch back on each time. Okay, that's right. So she's had the patch, and then her eye is orange. Okay, that's kind of where she gets her orange outline from. Very interesting that she has two different colored eyes. Is that because it's modified? Is that kind of what they're implying? It's a modification? She's talking about your eye must be very sensitive. Here I thought you had a 14-year-old sense of fashion. Oh, we're making the classic Chuni trope here. I think a cop would ever cover up her dominant eye because it was fashionable. I actually thought the same thing the first time we met. What? But getting back on track, the arm of his has been in the shop for some time now. He can't work without it. Money's gotten tight. They're arguing. Yeah. When did he put his arm in for repairs? 8 days before HK's first victim was killed. Well, no chance to chalk that up to coincidence. Your client was arrested on the scene after a preliminary scan and found his fingerprints in the revolver, and no one else's. A revolver? What kind? The old kind. The real old kind. More specifically, a Calver M54 6-chamber 10mm. Calver? How retro. Manufactured firearms from 2031 to 2062, and it was brought out by Thortech, an acquisition group specializing in security and national defense. The Lockquin Defense Corporation. The once semi-iconic brand was briefly revived in 2071, quarter 2, with a series of video game memorabilia tie-in promotions meant to increase in-game item sales before being completely dissolved in 2071, quarter 3, for failing to increase in-game item sales. Okay. You don't know the half of it. We're talking real gunpowder, steel chamber, mechanical firing pin, and no tags. No tags? How is that? Just how old are we talking here? Yeah, 24/7 location data, timestamp trigger pulls, safety's coded to owner biometrics. For the past 3 decades, tags have made shooting crimes very unambiguous. So you're claiming my client used some kind of antique to commit these crimes. How else do you think he would have gotten away with this the 5 other times? Yeah, I feel like if you're going to commit a murder with a gun, I mean, that's how you would have done it, right? You would have used a gun that wouldn't have been tracked. If you tried to buy a gun legit, you'd probably fail the very first psych check. And even jailbroken pieces are only good for so long before update withdrawal sets in. So then M54, that's model year 2054. A 30-year-old gun. Well, that sure complicates things, doesn't it? In some ways, sure. But pre-tagging firearms are rare. Gotta be less than 1,000 of them left in the whole country, and fewer still bullets. The ammunition would have to be over 30 years old, too. The novelty of this weapon has kept us in the dark so far. But now that we have our hands on it, it's gonna put him away for good. Archive department complained loudly as hell about how deep they had to dig. Though with the protocols, they found the texts were able to match the rifling marks on the 6 bullets to the gun your client was found with. Rifling marks. Bullets fired from handguns are that old are marked as by the barrel's shape. The full 6 bullets have the same rifling marks, so we would know they are all fired by the same gun. It's not as plug and play as tags are, but it's equally precise science, I assure you. If that's not damning enough, the spent casings from the other 5 shootings were still in the chamber, without even needing to reload. The caliber your client was found with is the gun HK used to kill 6 women. No way to lawyer around that. An untagged gun, just being anywhere near a weapon like that could warrant your arrest. Being found by the police over a dead body with an untagged gun used at over 5 other crime scenes is just... To summarize, then, you believe that my client fought verbally, then physically with his girlfriend, and then he retrieved the weapon and shot her? Yeah, pretty much. How did he look when the officers found him? Guilty. How was his effect? Quiet, detached, calm. Not exactly the picture of a grieving partner. That reaction must have lost some points to the cops, but beyond that, people react to loss in all kinds of unusual ways. And as long as the police are suspicious of you, there's no correct way to grieve. Okay. So we got kind of the timeline. Let's get the details and then ask about the Heartbreak Killer last. How about the basics? What exactly has my client been charged with? Your client, Carlos Jacob Flat, was arrested at the scene at 9:50 p.m. Using his middle name already, they really do think he's a serial killer. The charge was the first-degree murder of his girlfriend, a Miss Deanne Dawn. First-degree murder, that's increasingly rare, to say the least. Not often we get handed anything but crimes of passion around here. City's got damn near more cameras than people. Trying to get away with murder, you really got to be really, really stupid. Or you just have to think you're really smart. So you have reason to believe that this crime was planned ahead of time. We got a lot more than that. We've heard evidence that makes him the prime suspect in the killings of 5 other women, HK's previous victims. But how does that relate to premeditation rather than mental instability? 5 other shootings, 5 other victims. None of them knew each other, lived in the same areas, worked in the same sectors, shared the same friends. Weeks of digital autopsies didn't find connections in any of their online spheres. Law enforcement process of locating, bypassing authentication on, and investigating all of the deceased individuals' online profiles commonly used to seek out possible connections to suspects and their victims. This widely utilized practice has been scrutinized in the past by some privacy advocates, but many victims' families who lack the ability to find, let alone access all of their deceased loved ones' accounts, argue for its necessity. Comparable processes are offered as a paid service by some legal or funerary groups. Delete sensitive information. At times, these services marks as defense against data criminals attempting to steal identities of the dead. That's after they brought in the scope far enough to make the statistics people wince. Those serial killers' victims have nothing in common. Yeah, nothing at all. Other than they all look like his cousins. The physical similarities are striking. All 5 of HK's prior victims were young women with brown hair and eyes around 170 centimeters. Those features aren't uncommon. Couldn't it be random? Yeah, sure. HK's got himself a type. Anyone can see that. You got a picture of the victim in the files, don't you? You're gonna try and tell me you don't see the resemblance. Young woman, brown hair, brown eyes. Can't tell how far she is from a portrait. I can take the hint. You think what exactly? But these other ones are just a warm-up for the eventual murder of his girlfriend. Hey, if the shoe fits. If the shoe fits. Then you put the shoe on the... What Sunshine means is that it's not uncommon for killers to displace their violence from other people close to them onto outlets with fewer consequences. He's probably working up the nerve for tonight by practicing on these other similar women, or he's just so nuts he can't tell the difference anymore. Not the worst theory in the world, but it doesn't fit. London said the others were practice runs, dress rehearsals for tonight's main event, but they were all killed without hesitation. Not one of the crime scenes shown signs of overkill or attempts at remorse. There's no sadism or hatred or intimacy in a single shot to the heart. Killing your girlfriend or her looks-alike usually is, if nothing else, a lot less sterile. Real quick before I go any further with the next one, I would like to say that I've kind of hinted at this and maybe kind of said it indirectly. I think the world building so far has been really, really good. Like they've really like painted a picture of what this city's like, how it works. They painted a picture of like kind of what the characters are like, what the police does. I think they've done a really good job at the world building. I will absolutely say that. I'm really kind of getting invested in the story more than I do in maybe some other kind of stories similar. So I will say maybe in that sense they've kind of built it up to some of these other games, because I kind of went into this video into this game with uh, an idea that I wanted to compare it to those other ones. If they're gonna make such bold claims, I really want to challenge it. I like to challenge things that try to say that they're this or that and see if they really are. um I will say this has a different feel than those games in some aspects. I think there's still more polish to do, maybe with the UI and things like that. I think this right here is cool, like the way they did this, where you kind of have three options to choose, and or you know, it probably changes depending on what's going on. But I like having the options and how we're just kind of able to go based on whichever order we want. I like things like that because I can be like, oh, I actually think this second option is more important than the first one. Some people could just probably go down the line. I like to pick which ones I like, depending on what I think is relevant. So I like that they gave me that choice. So let's go ahead and go with the Heartbreak Killer. Checking my phone here, I have to say, you've done a pretty admirable job to keep the details of HK's crimes a secret. Less reputable sites are doing some real journalistic acrobatics trying to piece together a story. Yeah, top 11 theories on who hurt HK was a real weighty read. Yeah, who hurt this poor man that he went out and killed 6 people? It's not just journalists, though. All kinds have been emboldened. The freaks that HK's managed to bring out of the woodwork in just a few weeks. Can you blame them, though? I mean, he's a genuine serial killer. Repeat offenders in general are an endangered species he's gotten away with. We know what he's gotten away with. National DNA registry is robust enough that cases never go cold. Cameras on every street, a phone on every citizen. Violent crime at an all-time low and clearance rates at an all-time highs. But you gotta spout some alt-pol bullshit about invasion of privacy. No, I'm not. People are safer now than any time in history, detectives. The existence of someone like Heartbreak. Good point. London's trying to look like he can laugh it off, but pressure from the higher-ups must be reaching its peak. They want, maybe need, to see someone charged soon. Yeah, well, even if there's nothing standard about HK, Department SOP still dictates we starve the media for case details. That way, when we do feed them, they're grateful for whatever scraps they get. Well, you can't take all the credit this time around. Homicide's tight-knit and tight-lipped, but it's not like there's much information for us to leak in the first place. Because none of the shootings were caught on the opt-in crime surveillance system. How is that even possible? Oh, frick, I should have read that. Hold up, can I still go back and read it? Ah, frick, I'm sorry, guys. I skipped over it. I was just so like engrossed in the dialogue right now. I'm kind of like wasn't thinking about it. I apologize. I know there's some problem areas in the lower wards, but optics is watching over the street in the city. You're saying that you haven't seen this killer on camera once. You think we'd have let him kill 6 people if we did? I understand your concern, man, but optics is just what it says in the name. Private surveillance system signing up to feed into the state security network. Just one of many public safety tools in our belt. It's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to help us solve crimes, or at least act as a deterrent. No deterring crimes, necessity, or passion. It's like a safety blanket, one of the very few holes left in it, but it does have holes. Patching up those remaining holes takes effort, and that effort usually means rebooting the system. There's all kinds of technical scheduling and digital bureaucracy involved. But the end result is that there are occasional localized blackouts, and they are not impossible. And they're not impossible to predict. I see. Still, those windows are small, short, and infrequent. Taking advantage of them requires specific knowledge. You need to be involved in law enforcement, public data infrastructure, or city planning. They don't mention it if my client was a cop, and he wouldn't have needed a public defender either. His file says he's modded for heavy mass manipulation, not tech interfacing, so that leaves city planning. Is he some kind of civil engineer? HK only struck at times locations where optics would be down. Even with the devil's own luck, it can't possibly be a coincidence. We're finally mentioning the title of the game here a little bit, the devil. Wait, then you're saying when this woman was killed, yeah, there's a blackout from around 8 to 9 tonight, right on schedule, so to speak. And it included the area surrounding the victim's apartment. What about DNA from the other crime scenes? Was my client a match? There's been no blood, no saliva, no suspect DNA at any of the crime scenes. No footage or no forensics. Also, no motives, tampering, or witnesses. It's been like hunting a damn ghost. We didn't even have a murder weapon till now. Finally, a lucky break for the boys in blue. I like how they still call them the boys in blue. Like, clearly these guys aren't wearing blue. Doesn't seem like there's probably a whole lot of cops. But maybe they wear blue. Because these guys are the detectives, so. Scanners, cams, drones, forensics. No matter how you dress it up with tech, what we do still relies on one basic assumption. Criminals make mistakes. But HK is the kind of monster who doesn't make mistakes. Only reason we caught him tonight was because he finished what he had set out to do all along. So my client on the list of suspects before tonight. Weren't you listening? There was no suspect list. We questioned some jilted exes, a few Trion CIs, someone even spoke to one or two unlisted at some point. Nothing came of it. There was talk about starting on some kind of psych eval or something. I never expected much to come out of that. There's just not enough to work with. In other words, the only thing we could have to link my client to those cases is the murder weapon. If I can jostle that keystone, the rest of their evidence should start to come loose as well. Thanks for the chat, detectives. I think I understand the background well enough now. Candidly, I see some strokes you do, and the picture it paints isn't pleasant. But even so, I think it's a bit unrefined to be brought before a judge, don't you think? Hey, it's only our job to catch the bastard. The DEA is the one who gets to the conviction. Besides, we're not exactly going to have to work hard to convince anyone that he's guilty. And why is that? We found a handwritten confession at his desk, for God's sake. Well, that's unexpected. You wrote a confession. Has it been verified? Not yet. We'll have to muscle past everyone in fraud and disinfo to get to the front of the line. Why bother? The note's covered in his fingerprints. You can see it for yourself in the discovery data, but it doesn't exactly make for light reading. I'll have to manage some. I need to see this confession for myself. There should be a scan of it in the files they transferred to me. Sorry for everything. Can't say it enough. Didn't mean to hurt you or do what I did. Did not want any of it to happen. Can't stay in control when I get mad. When I'm not in control, I hurt people without meaning to. Wish I hadn't broken them. Didn't mean to at first, but I was getting hurt. Wanted you to hurt too, but didn't want to hurt you. Words aren't enough. I know that now. I'll take responsibility to do what I've been avoiding. Please forgive me. Gosh, this is like really loud background. This is difficult to read because the handwriting is very legible. I see what you mean. But if you have a confession from this individual, why was I called in to serve as his defense attorney? He wouldn't sign anything, won't admit to anything, won't even open up his mouth anymore. Asked for representation, and you were the one who got assigned. Lucky you. Hardly, I just happened to be awake when the call went out. But it's my responsibility all the same, so I'd like to speak with my client now. What? He's still not handcuffed in there, is he? Look, counsel, with all due respect, we have strong evidence pointing to that man being responsible for 6 murders. 2 hours or so in cuffs isn't cruel or unusual, and that's for your safety as well. Kind of if you to worry, but I doubt I'll be in any danger. He's killed 6 women. None of them were redheads. Seriously though, I'd like to stick with him alone now. That means camera's off, of course. Mic's on or off is your call, counselor. But we'll be watching the feed from right outside in case anything happens. And the cuffs, that is, stays on. Not worried about me, how chivalrous. Yeah, my armor's practically blinding. Gross. I'll start up the unlock cycle. Counselor, just one last word of advice. If you have any interest in his well-being, suggest you help him finish making that confession. The defense part of defense attorney isn't just for show, detective. I'm serious. 6 people dead is one thing, but he's also caused weeks of widespread terror and public unrest. Putting it another way, he's made the state look bad. That's a capital crime, even if the death penalty is not actually on the table these days. I can guarantee he's not gonna like the treatment plan they come up with for him. Look, I've seen the virtual work release program in person, and it's... Hey there, due to ongoing controversy following the suspected suicide of inmate Jay Galal, search results for this term are temporarily blocked. We can't even do our job! We're freaking police, and they won't even let us look at terms. Being challenged before the Supreme Court. Yeah, sometime in the next decade, maybe. Just remember, a plea deal might feel like a loss for you, but if it keeps him from... Well, that's probably a win for your client, right? Prison sentences are generally lighter for people who plead guilty, that much is true. Saves the courts a great deal of time and money, and they show their gratitude for reduced sentencing, but no one will ever be grateful towards the Heartbreak Killer. If this client's convicted for killing 6 people, he may never rest his mind another day in his life. So it's 3:35 a.m., June 5th, in 2086. Carlos Flat. Who are you? Another cop? No, Carlos, I'm not a cop. I'm your public defender, Morgan. I'm here to help you. They said the same thing. They all did. Back in there, they kept repeating it the whole ride over. They said that they were going to help me, that they all knew this was a mistake. Then they said that I killed. Acting like they were on my side, and they thought I could have. That I... It's not their job to help you, Carlos, but it is mine, and I'm here now. Seems like he's still in shock. I need information, but I have to be careful with my questioning, or he'll just get more upset. For everything that's happened, I'm sure you're exhausted. It's probably difficult to think, let alone speak, but I'd like you to try and answer a few questions. The police already questioned you, I'm sure. But they were treating you as a suspect, not as a client. Yeah, okay. What do you want to ask? Okay, I can ask him about himself or ask him about the victim. I do think in this case it would be better to ask about himself, get an idea of who he is, and then ask about his relationship to her. People like to define themselves based on their occupation. Asking about his work might help them feel normal for a moment or two. I'd like to know a bit more about you first, Carlos. What line of work are you in? I'm with city engineering. Or I was. Or I should be. As I thought, the detectives think he mapped objects blackouts using data he stole from work. My arm. I got the surgery for the job, and I need more than that. His arm not equipped at the moment, but based on his shoulders, it must be a pretty utilitarian model. He doesn't strike me as the type who's enamored with the aesthetics of modding. The young and the restless and the rich swapping in neon and chrome limbs because they like the way it looks, or the way people start looking at them. No, he's all business, the type to get modded to further their career or help them get work at all, in which case... My brother wanted to mod. Really? I don't even have a brother. He had everything planned out, every promotion he'd earned, and every upgrade they'd afford him. Then his 18th birthday present. Test results telling him that he's not a viable candidate. That sucks. I think he was relieved, actually. Like, he was glad that such a big decision wasn't his to make anymore, you know? Yeah, I think I do. I was so sure I would start with a hand, test the water. Never thought about lobbing the whole damn thing off, but the recruiter was enthusiastic. Said the cause of CD was the financial aid and resources. Of course, that got shit canned. So now me and every other modder is up shit creek. Couldn't even let me keep the tax credit. The Citizens with Disabilities Act was amended, not repealed, but I doubt he'd appreciate distinction at the moment. Worked the tire spaces, the high-pressure environments, lots of canopy, upkeep. Typical stuff for modders, you know? He'd work with other prosthetic users. Yeah, my whole crew's got steel in one place or another. We do the jobs that are too important for ads and too dangerous for normal people, I guess. Why aren't you wearing your prosthetic right now, Carlos? Yeah, that. Rejection issues starting last month. A lot of restless nights. Rejection issues. Did the therapy not take? I'll let you guys read this for a second. I'm gonna take some water. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot in kind of cyberpunky stuff. It seems like they have to like connect to certain parts of your body, like your head and your brain, your nervous system, things like that. It seems like it causes a lot of problems, a lot of strain on your body to have things like that. It's not that I wasn't bleeding puss out of my sockets, if that's what you're imagining. Do these rejection issues have anything to do with your scars? Not in the way you're thinking. I'm right-handed. Never gone this long without having to use my left for everything. They're shaving scars. The problem started small, trembling, then spasms. Just oversensitivity, they said. The problem got bigger. Couldn't let it get that far. Need to be able to trust your own hands when you're working on the job site. Drop a cutter at the wrong moment and people could get hurt. So I sat down, made an appointment, turned in my arm to have it looked at. Watched my case get placed at the back of the damn line. Where'd you turn it in? Some mass turnaround chop shop? Like a waiting list? With a waiting list like you wouldn't... Doesn't sound like you're a happy customer. Hell no, I found a dozen other clinics with shorter wait times, but as long as I'm renting and not owning, the manufacturer decides where your arm gets maintenance. And that's why I'm sitting here with this expensive-ass stump for his shoulder. I haven't been able to work in weeks. Boss was generous enough to say my position might still be there when I've got two hands again. You couldn't buy or rent a replacement yourself just in the meantime? I'm an employee of the city, and they got exclusivity contracts with little old Hindi, all locked up white knuckle tight. That's a cute name for one of the biggest corporations on the planet. How Industries is the world leader in research, development, manufacturing, and the fitting of cybernetic prosthetics for commercial and private use. And we're hiring. We're seeking motivated and passionate archivists, programmers, salespeople, and college graduates with degrees in digital archaeology, cybernetic anatomy, and more. Interesting. That Detective Reyes did say he was registered with one of their habilis models. If I took one step on site with an uninsured limb, forget the fines, I'd lose the down payment and my arm, and I'd never work in the city again. You mentioned discomfort. Are you in pain now? It comes and goes. The phantoms come back pretty fast when I don't have anything. Hmm. Yeah, I've heard about that. When you lose like a limb, you kind of get that phantom pain, or you kind of feel like it's still there, but it's not. Arm shaped attached to me. Then they give you something to, well, wear in the meantime? Something the clinics lend out in case like this? That thing they gave me is a dead weight, 3-jointed piece of shit. Sorry, it's a very shitty feeling to have something so cheap take the place of your limb, having a part of your body that they cut corners on. It fits, it's compatible technically, I can plug it in and feel on balance again, but the fingers don't even bend and the quick twitch motors are way off. Like walking around with your arm asleep, or dead. Hardly much better than just going without. Were you wearing it when you were arrested? No, I wasn't. Not even sure where it is right now, the police must have grabbed it as evidence. Everything he's saying makes sense so far. He's only had the victim's blood in his left arm because the time in question he didn't have a right. So it sounds like he's kind of just frustrated, but is this guy really the killer? Would you really peg this person as somebody who would go out and kill 6 people? You and the victim were romantically involved. How long did you know each other? Since I've known her since college. We shared a few classes, friend circles, we got along real easy. Eventually we just got together at some point. Guess I never actually asked her. Formal, like, pretty lame, huh? Diane, she was in genetics, agriculture specifically. It'll be a while before he gets used to using the past tense. Since she'd just gotten done with her post-grad studies this year. Got hired right out the gate, practically headhunted. You believe that? Practically headhunted. Of course she was. Any company would be lucky to have her. It was a real ass job, paid real ass money too, so her career was starting to pan out right as his fell into a slump. Had she adjusted well to her new job? Did she even mention arguments or disputes with coworkers and friends? No, nothing that would... No one I know could do this to her. And there's nothing she could have done that would deserve what happened to her. It was a long shot, hoping for a disgruntled character from her past to shift blame onto. With no other suspects, I can just reshuffle the detective's suspicions. I'll have to disprove their argument entirely. Thanks, Carlos. That was very helpful. It was? Now, I'd like you to try and tell me whatever you can about what happened with Diane. Start at the beginning and take your time. And the details are important. Alright, Miss Morgan. I'll try when you're ready. We were arguing. We had been arguing a lot lately, arguing about stupid stuff. I haven't been making money, haven't been providing, haven't been pulling my weight. I was mad at myself and jealous of her. Jealous over promotions and shit. Jealous over money. The police say you were arguing around 8 p.m.? 8? Yeah, it must have been when we started. We got into it, and I said a lot of things I shouldn't have. I said one thing I really shouldn't have. I knew I'd crossed the line, so I left. You left. Walked out the front door, left. Thought some fresh air might help me clear my head. Help me figure out what to say, what to make up to her. Of course, the air wasn't fresh, just humid, thick like mud. That's what I'm saying. They do a lot of good world building. Like, they're like, hey, this city is... The air quality's not good. She kind of mentioned the air quality at the start of the game. Like, they're kind of building on things they've already mentioned, which I like. And while I was pissing away the time, Diane was... Did you bring your phone with you or any other device? I'm pretty sure I didn't. I just walked around the block. Wasn't really paying attention, you know? With optics down, traffic and street level cams won't help him. That leaves. Did you go through a checkpoint and talk to him with modded eyes? Did you buy anything, cash or credit? No, not even a vending machine. Not even a damn vending machine, huh? Forget about what I said about the rain earlier. This guy's as unlucky as they come. Just wanted quiet at the time. Wanted to wallow in it. Sorry if I didn't have all the details right in my head is. But if you need to be sure, the cans probably caught my exact route, so... What? What is it? Carlos, you don't show up on a single cam at the time of the murder. What? How the hell? No, I was on the street, so there was a span of time where optics was down last night, apparently from 8:17 to 9:21. In other words, there's no proof that you were out the time Diane was killed. That's impossible. You have to believe me. I didn't do this. I couldn't. Carlos, I'm not the person you have to try to convince. After all, I'm your lawyer. So let's just keep going and see what we got to work with. Right. You said you left to clear your head. So what made you come back? Because I heard a noise. A loud noise. I didn't know what it was, but it was loud and it scared me. And it came from the direction of our apartment. You two live on the first floor, right? Yeah, first floor street-facing entrance. We were proud of that when we first moved in, like it was some kind of big deal. I was walking back at first, but at some point I must have started running because when I got back I was so out of breath. And when I saw that the front door was open, something just dropped in my chest, my lungs wouldn't. I came in and saw it on the ground from the hallway. I saw the blood and I didn't realize what had happened. You didn't understand what you were seeing. The lights were off. The whole room was a mess. I thought we had been robbed or she had fallen ill. There was glass on the floor, furniture knocked aside, and she was... I called her name and she didn't move. I checked her pulse and she was still warm. Her blood was warm. And I saw that gun. It looked heavy and I thought it had to be fake because I didn't want it to be real. Is that why you picked it up? What? Pick it up? I didn't touch that thing. I didn't shoot her, damn it. Doing what I do, you hear a lot of lies, white lies, blatant lies, hasty lies, bad lies especially. For me, it's always been easy to spot a lie, but it can be hard to know what to do about it. He's nervous and defensive, better handle this with a delicate touch. You did touch the gun, Carlos. That's just a fact. I know because of the prints. I know because your fingerprints are on the gun. What? But I didn't do this. I wasn't thinking. I was just... All I'm saying is that you picked it up. That's all. Would you believe me if I said I didn't realize it was a gun? That explains how his fingerprints got on the murder weapon, but not in a way that would satisfy the police. Yeah, that would be a very convenient thing. So, if all Carlos did was hold the gun, so stupid, I know what a gun looks like, but laying there in my own home right in front of me, you were in shock, Carlos, you still are. The policeman came in sometime after that. I didn't remember much of what they said, things started moving fast, it seemed like. The rest of my night went, as you can imagine. Carlos, you admit to having a verbal argument with Diane. You said you were surprised to see the room trashed when you got back. To clarify, are you saying that you two never had a physical fight? What? Physical? We never fought. We never fought like that. Did the police say that we did? They assumed as much. Which means they also assumed the room was disheveled before the shooting occurred. Considering what Carlos had told me, what else did they assume? What is it? Take a look at this diagram for me. Roughly describes the state of the room as the police found it. Right, it's just that a diagram extrapolated from data, Carlos. There's no gritty details for you to relive. Okay, let me see it. Think back to how it looked when you left. Try and focus on what's out of place. I don't remember exactly where everything was, but I mean that clock in the corner was on the wall, obviously. That chair must have been knocked over, or her mirror got smashed at some point. The bed cushions are all... Sorry, did that help? That was great, Carlos. Well, what's the matter? Now I need to ask you about the letter that was found on your desk. Letter? What are you talking about? You're saying that isn't your handwriting. This isn't, I mean, this is just what I wrote to myself. Pardon? Look, when we fight, I lose my temper. I say things I don't mean to. This morning, I mean, yesterday morning, I tried writing things down to give myself a script to stick to help me apologize to her instead of just fighting with her. You say here that you hurt them. That's I broke her fidget tubbies. Or what? Her fidget tubbies. They're these collectible ceramic characters. They're supposed to be like tactile or some shit, like a paperweight or conversation starter. She loved those little things. I like how this game is just so subtle with music, and it's just kind of like, we're just chilling here, you know? And then all of a sudden you got this bright, like, kind of wonky music playing. They're not worth a damn. You can buy them at any flea market or garage sale, but they meant a lot to her. I broke them. My piece of shit replacement arm, I hardly know where I'm swinging it half the time. Okay, he says he broke her Frigiduckies with his replacement arm. Frigiduckies. Does that change anything? Not immediately. There's not enough detail in the note for me to provide what his intent was before he sat down to write it. Although by the same stroke, the police can't prove the letter was meant to be a confession for the Heartbreak killings. Alright, Carlos. Thanks for answering my questions. Now I'm going to call the police back in here. I'm going to get this cleared up for you. What? That's it? That's it? Oh, well, okay. Although before that, I do have to ask, what do you know about the Heartbreak Killer? HK, that shooter that was trending for a while? I mean, as much as anyone, I guess. I think everybody's on edge, a guy like that out there. Shoots people through the heart, right? Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. Carlos, you give love a bad name. The police insist on keeping the victims' names and appearances away from major media sources. I'm sorry for my singing. I apologize. Everyone's like, oh no, don't want to watch this video anymore. So unless he's already digging in some murders, Carlos wouldn't know about the resemblance to his girlfriend. But you don't think that Diane was... I mean, she was shot in the chest, and that's just not possible. If he's this slow in the uptake, then it's gotta be a real shock to those officers walk in here and accuse him of being a serial killer. I'll just have to squash that theory as quickly as possible. Alright, it's now 4:10, so we've gone through a little bit of time here. Thank you all for your assistance this morning, detectives. Yeah, sure, always happy to be of service. So is he ready to confess? Because I already woke up the DA. Already, she must be new. The district attorneys have final say on whether or not a case is brought to trial. Fitting, since they're the ones who end up having actually proved the damn thing. Most of them prefer simple guilty pleas over long, protracted trials. And they all dislike having their time wasted. Fortunately, then you have to call them back, because my client is not guilty. And frankly, I'm not even sure you have enough to hold him here. Really? You got a weird sense of humor, counselor. And it's about 13 hours too early in the day for me to appreciate it. Let's see, what is it? 4 in the morning? I mean, you need that much time to really get going? You need to be in the afternoon? Very serious when it comes to defending a man's innocence, detective. Counselor, we have your client's written confession. Hey, that was... Carlos, just let me do the talking. When you were so ambitiously referred to as confession is, in fact, just a simple apology to his girlfriend. For what? Killing her? For an unrelated matter. That's not going to cut it. Only thing that confession's missing is a signature. So if you want to claim our key evidence is just some kind of apology, you need to tell us exactly what it was an apology for. You need to show us some real proof. Proof? It's all in the files they gave me. Goes to show how excited they were to get their hands on Heartbreak. Their missing details are right under their noses. I'm not in the habit of making unfounded claims, detective. So if you want evidence, you just need to take a look at... So if we want evidence, I wish they would show at the bottom, like, okay, what do I need to find evidence of? So we need to look at the diagram of the scene, or the note. She said it was in the evidence, so let's try the diagram. Allow me to show you. Your diagram of this room. This is straight from the ARCS file, right? Augmented reality crime scene is an investigative tool that's harvested by the sensors worn on the first responders to reconstruct a digital copy of an unaltered crime scene. And I'm not going to read all of this, but if you guys want to pause the video, feel free. And you can pause it right there, too. It is interesting. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I would read it if I was just reading it in my head out instead of out loud. It's just, it hurts my throat when because I'm constantly reading what the dialogue is, and I have to read that, and that's a lot of text. And I'm doing this for probably 2 hours, because I think this is about a 2-hour prologue, somewhere in there. They said 1 to 2 hours, so I'm just going to assume 2. So I'm like, I need to keep my voice going. Pure non-GMO. What does GMO have to do with this? Augmented reality crime scene data. Not much these days. Apparently everything's genetically modified in the future. Interesting. There's no organic. Notice anything out of place with your diagram? Sure, there's plenty of busted shit lying around all over the place. It's a scene of a murder. Plenty of busted shit for sure, but I was referring to the unidentified ceramic debris found on the western side of the room. Hell is that? Is it just from the vase that got thrown? Actually, that's not possible. It's not possible because that vase... I'm going to say it wasn't ceramic? No, thinking back, the art data noted clearly that the vase was ceramic in make. Still, debris from the room couldn't possibly have ended up on the western side of the room. Anywhere else in the room because that vase... I guess it wasn't damaged. She said it was pretty durable. I'm going to go with that. It's not possible that debris could come from the vase because the vase isn't even scratched. Seriously, what the lady at the garage sale told me was so old and delicate. Damn, the only time I tried in thrift shop with that, Diane. So what? What does it even matter? If that vase is pristine, then what the hell was the debris, you might ask? That debris is actually what my client had to apologize for. After all that remains of the victim's collection of fidget tuffies. I like how the music just comes in for that one moment. Mr. Flat broke these ceramic figures, not during any struggle or argument with the victim, but by accident in the morning. Bullshit. Counselor, even if they were a bit out of the way, you have no proof that they weren't knocked over during the murder. I may not have proof, but I believe you do. You took in his replacement arm as evidence, didn't you, out of the abundance of caution? Yeah, I think I saw it got bagged. What's its matter? My client smashed those fidget toddlers. with the same prosthetic arm you took into custody, so your highly qualified crime scene techs would have found plenty of ceramic residue on them. I'm guessing they're even flagged that they even flagged it as notable for your convenience. Maybe so. More than maybe, I think. And since any of the arresting officers can attest that Carlos wasn't wearing prosthetic arm when he was found, we can all come to the same reasonable conclusion that he broke those fudgy... that he broke the said items earlier that day. I like how she started correcting herself. I don't want to hear the fidget tummies again. Let's just say the items. But he would have had enough time to sit down and write an apology about it. Oh, you gotta be joking. Look at how they're scrawled, how panicked the writing on the note is. You're trying to say they got upset over a fidget tubby collection that hasn't even been graded. Putting aside Detective Rey's surprising knowledge about tacky collectibles, there's a good explanation for that, too. And what was that, counselor? It's only natural that his penmanship looks the way he does because he's right-handed. Because Carlos is right-handed. It must have been the same for you and your eye. Consuls typically recommended replacing the dominant one. So he wrote that note with his left hand. I tend to think better than typing. I need to get used to using my left anyways. Fine. So he's not feeling guilty enough to write a confession. Congratulations, you've scouted your client's remorseless. We still have his fingerprints on the murder weapon and his blood on the jacket in hand. That's... My client fully admits to holding the gun. He picked it up in confusion when he found the body, which was not smart. But it wasn't illegal either. Oh, please. He had his blood all over his clothes. Yes, he did. Do you have those clothes on hand, by the way? The lab finished with them a while ago. What are you getting at? It'll be easier just to show you. Would you mind getting them for me? You know what? Sure, I'd be happy to. I just love to see this. What are you doing? Relax, Carlos. I'm pretty sure that's impossible. You're innocent, and that means that having more evidence will always help you, not hurt you. Really? Really? Not really. Prison's full of innocent people. People with bad luck or bad lawyers. For better or worse, you can't always count on the truth to come out easy. More often than not, it takes coaxing. Here, one blood-stained jacket from the lab. Gosh, it looks something like straight out of like Cyberpunk 2077. What's your angle? What's that got to say in this? Is he actually a size XSS or something? I'm not. He's identified it as his jacket, but don't you know something odd, detectives? I'm pretty sure it's on the left sleeve. I can notice that. Notice your love of rhetorical questions. Get to the point. The murder weapon in it is an old world revolver. That means no tags, no magnetic slugs, no lethal TAS projectiles. If Carlos really had shot the victim with a gun like that, wouldn't there be evidence indicating that on the jacket he was wearing at the time? To prove it, I'll have to call the detective's attention to what they can. Okay, so we need to prove there's no gunpowder on it. Is that what we're doing? How about we smell it? The point is very simple. I'll ask you one thing. Smell this. No, really, go ahead. Tell me what you smell. I smell drying blood? Correct. And you don't smell anything else. Right, that's... Hey, the hell is she on about? It's nothing that complicated. It's just that you don't smell any gunpowder. Okay, so I was right to say smell, because I was thinking gunpowder. That's something you would smell. That's very strong. Gunpowder? What do you mean? Don't blame yourself for not noticing. This is before your time. You can't be more than a few years older than me. But not before your partners, it seems. Gunpowder is weak by modern standards, but it's still volatile stuff, hard to store, prone to misfiring. When it goes bang, it leaves behind an awful lot of evidence. The hell is she talking about, Lyndon? Modern firearms like ours use EM bursts, magnetism, even air pressure, sound waves. They got more accuracy, more firepower, less recoil, less noise. They don't leave behind any residue. You thought HK was clever because his gun didn't leave any digital traces behind, but a revolver like this would leave gunpowder on the clothes and the skin of whoever fired it for days. If you don't trust your noses, you can check the lab reports. If you think they found any gunpowder on my client or his clothes, they'd have taken the time to highlight it. Okay, my question, though, would be, would there be any chance of, like, cross-contamination? So we're talking about the gun would have gunpowder on it, right? If he touched the gun, would it not have some on his hands? I'm just asking. I mean, maybe some of it would have been on the killers. There would have been some, I feel like. But I don't know. Depends on how much gunpowder was discharged. This means you washed it off after shooting her or changed his clothes. That's not impossible, but it would be pretty pointless. His jacket and his left hand were bloody when his peers found him. Would he really go for the effort to get rid of something as subtle as gunpowder residue? Just to get the victim's blood all over himself afterwards? They're faltering now. The letter wasn't much of a consequence, but the gun is really all they had to do to name Carlos as the Heartbreak Killer. It looks like he never actually fired the gun. In light of these details, I'd like to ask you to reconsider the charges Mr. Flat is facing as soon as possible. A message? Wait, did they seriously? You're good at your job. You had me going there. For a second. Where's this coming from? Unfortunately for him, though, the scrubbing effort just paid off because they found an image of the shooter at the very moment they pulled the trigger. And they're sending it over right now. A photo of the shooter? I thought that was an optics blackout. Seems like this isn't from optics. You mean that's some random person? Looks like at the time of the shooting, a neighbor was on their phone, probably venting about how crazy the couple across the way was acting. But since their phone was on, the camera was... They had their window blinds open. All it takes is one single camera to catch a criminal in the act. Could be from a car, a computer, a phone, an ad, or even a modded eye. It doesn't necessarily have to be powered on. Cost must have pinged to thousands of devices in the surrounding area digging for footage, and now here it is. And would you look at that? A shooter with no right arm. Quality is lacking. It says no right arm because it just looks like their hand's kind of hanging down. You don't really see their hand out of the sleeve or anything. I don't think that necessarily says too much. The clock is on the wall. The clock, I believe, had fallen down, so that's something different. Yet there it is. I managed to find a quarter needle of evidence in a whole city block of haystacks. What are the chances? No, with their scale of way they operate, I guess the chances are in their favor. Alright, this isn't good. It's a far cry from worst case scenario I envisioned. Maybe it really is my lucky day. You can't see the shooter's face or even make out their clothes. Ultra low resolution, zoomed in, blurred, color shifted, and so compressed it looks like it's from another century. There are tools that can enhance. Enhance the image anymore and you could count the pixels on 2 hands. You can't honestly claim that you can identify my client from this image, and there's no way you could convince the court. Yeah, that's probably right, we couldn't. But I think that I know a DA that could. Either way, it doesn't seem like your client's leaving the police station anytime soon. That photo. Just what the hell is happening? I think I know a DA that could. Don't be so modest, old man. We have photo evidence of the left-handed shooter standing in the hallway at the same time the whole neighborhood heard a gunshot. And who do we know that had their left hand fingerprints all over that M54? You're referring to my client. You think? We've established he wasn't wearing his modded arm at all tonight, so of course he must have shot with his left. And we've also established that his left hand is shaky and he still has no gunpowder anywhere. Forensics will never be perfect, counselor. Sometimes we miss things. Sometimes you take a walk throughout the rain, and when you finally get where you're going, you somehow end up dry. That doesn't mean it didn't rain. All which is to say, before judge or jury, photographic evidence outweighs a failed sniff test. Carlos is innocent, I know he is. That means this photo doesn't show what it appears to show, so then... at a loss for words, never. I'm just confused about one thing. Where was this photo taken from exactly? Exactly, traditional data is only accurate to the nearest public router. If we de-annon the phone's owner and ask them where, why bother with all that? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how this would have all gone down. We're looking straight at the shooter, so it's pretty obvious this was taken from across the north window. So I'm guessing this is the door, and this is where it would have came in. Then this would have shown right there. They must live on the other side of the street. Is that right? Was this photo taken from the north? Oh, dang, I wish I could look back and see where the clock was. I needed to confirm that. I'm gonna say that's right. If we assume this photo is taken from the north, then there's something in this picture shouldn't be there. But it is there. Okay, so that's what I wanted to look back and confirm. I wish they would let you look back at the evidence real quick, if you could have an option to, like, check the evidence again. Because, yeah, the clock right there, I'm guessing, is in a different spot. Well, then, pleading some lightness, counselor. The idea that this photo is taken in the north doesn't line up with what we see in your photo. Your prized photo evidence is self-contradictory. How's that exactly? Just take one good look at it. It's, background, right? There's a clock on the wall in this photo, analog style, and it reads 9 o'clock. Time of the shooting. The hell's contradictory about that? Nothing. There's nothing odd about the clock reads, but do you remember there being a clock in the room? Actually, I don't recall there being a clock. That makes sense you wouldn't recall seeing a clock, because when the police secured the scene, the clock had already been knocked on the floor from off the eastern wall. Hold on a minute, there had been a clock on the ground somewhere, sure, but the photo was taken immediately before a gunshot was heard. Scrubbers even found the timestamped audio to corroborate. So the struggle between the kill and the victim should have already taken place, and the clock should have already been knocked off the wall. Seems that way, doesn't it? The hell are you saying now? I'm in a position to finish this, so I won't be able to end things without mentioning the other murders. Looks like I can't avoid dropping HK's name in front of Flat any longer. Oh well, bandage ripping time. Tell me, detectives, was there any sign of a struggle at the other crime scenes? Other crime scenes? Carlos, please just trust me. No, nothing like that. Those attacks would have been over in a matter of seconds, so what did you think you saw at the mess of a crime scene in Diane's apartment? That this was personal and things had gotten complicated. Shit happened. Shit does happen, detective, but in this case it seems there's been a general misconception about the order in which shit happened. Fortunately, we can clear all this thing up by paying close attention to the crime scene diagram. There's in fact one particular detail that tells us the order of events quite plainly. One particular detail shows about how the cards fell. Okay, so I need to figure out the order. Glass fragments, the cause of death, the caliber. In the ARC's files, there are flagged pieces of broken glass near the body. And we can all reason the glass was shattered when the rest of the room was ransacked. It's the big deal. The big deal is that the ARC shows the glass on top of the victim's body, not under it. In other words, the glass was broken after she had fallen to the ground dead, which means the room must have been trashed after the shooting and not during a prior struggle. So the clock would have been on the east wall when the crime occurred. Why would the killer trash the room after he shot Diane? A good question. And one that detectives will have to find the answer to after they release you. What are you talking about? It's odd that the room was trashed after the murder, but so what? We still have a photo, and I'm glad you do. You're glad? Proving that it wasn't my client to pull the trigger is difficult and probably, most importantly, maybe more importantly for all of us, time-consuming. Thanks to that photo, I can instead prove that it couldn't have been the client who pulled the trigger, because the man in that photo couldn't possibly be Carlos. And what do you mean by that, counselor? Here comes the coup de grace. I'll have to take care not to wound their pride too badly. Even if doing what I do makes hostility a given, I'd still prefer not to have any cops walking around and actively hitting my guts. Carlos clarified that the clock we see in this photo was hung on the eastern wall, so this photo must have been taken from across the alley, not the street. Interesting, so it must have been taken from that angle. Means we're seeing the view from the western window. If we weren't seeing the photo taken from the western window, we'd have to ask, what exactly are we looking at? We're looking at a left-handed shooter in a bright hallway. There's only one hallway in that apartment, Detective Reyes, and it runs from north to south. So now you're going back to the north window. This is just bullshit. There's just one last bit of evidence you failed to take into consideration. You've been thinking about this crime based on how the room looked afterwards, but we've just now established the room was pristine when the shooting occurred. That means that we're seeing in this photo isn't the shooter. What we're seeing in this photo is it a reflection of the mirror? It's the shooter's reflection. His reflection. The bits of glass that ended up on top of Diane's body, they were from a standing mirror. A mirror that at the time of the shooting stood across the room from the western window, but then that would mean, at that angle from that viewpoint, it would reflect the hallway. We're not shooting a shooter with a gun in their left hand, we're seeing a killer take aim with their right arm. Huh. As you all know, my client hasn't had a working arm in a number of weeks. The fingers on his replacement don't even have joints. So I mean, what I said about your photo, I'm glad that it was recovered, because it just proves my client couldn't possibly have committed the crime. Wow. She sure cracked this case wide open. She's got me believing it. Stubborn, this one. A little stubbornness can be charming, but this kind of desperation is ugly. It's getting late. Time to put my foot down a bit. Even a bared bones prosthetic off the black market needs to be between the Adagil's nervous system. You have to bring it to a clinic which would have left a record on his shoulder OS. A record you won't find. And he'd still have to somehow have gotten rid of it before the police arrived. SOP at the scene of a violent crime calls for full spectrum scanning of the entire building 100 meters around at minimum. Where did he manage to hide an entire cybernetic arm from your drones in the time between the shooting and his arrest? Yeah, because let's see. The shooting occurred at 9. Police were on the scene by 7 minutes in. And he was arrested, I believe, at 9 minutes in. Show me your hand, Flat. You're uncuffing me? In light of the evidence, we have no reason to hold you. Shit, I gotta call the DA in. They're gonna be pissed. Listen, kid, you... Never mind, lost train of thought. Your attorney's a real tiger, and she just fought like hell for you. Make sure you thank her properly. Yeah. It's kind of you to say, detective. Yeah, sure. Just don't start expecting that kind of kindness from the rest of my peers, counselor. What happens now? I'll try to speak to the DA about the dismissal, and there's still some paperwork we need to deal with, but basically you're free to go. But what am I supposed to do? Investigations will continue, the authorities may contact you for further interviews, or they may not. When they're satisfied with their examination of the body, they shall be handed over to the next of kin, and you can make your preparations for a funeral. No, I meant, Diane being gone is one thing, but a serial killer is like dying. It's like dying of the flu. It doesn't happen anymore. People die of the flu all the time, but I know what you mean. I can't make sense of it, so what am I supposed to do? Hell if I know. There are some phone numbers I could give you, services, professionals, doctors. No, you've done more than enough for me. When you got here, I was too tired to defend myself to try and convince them I didn't. You saved me. Thank you. You're welcome, Carlos. It's my job. No, I thank you for not asking. For not asking if I killed her. I didn't need to ask, Carlos. I knew you were innocent from the start. Of course he was. After all. What? Hold, though. What? The gunshot scared me. Blood's always a little different. Heart's always in the same place he's defined. The blood's always a little different. It stains the chest like a flower unfurling its petals towards some unknown sun. A perfectly unique bloom, only one for each of us. A Rorschach test with singular universal meaning, vitality at its climax, bursting through a red fractal consisting solely of an infinite at the end. But the comical thud of a body hidden in the floor has its own kind of lowbrow appeal. That was a plot twist right there. Okay, that was a good plot twist. Could you have predicted that? Maybe. I don't know. But dang, that was good. That was bullet number 6-6. The gun's empty. It's useless to me now. May as well leave it. It feels like a waste, but whatever. Finding the ammo for one of these things is enough to hassle without weighing the advantages. I could sell an untagged gun for a fair bit of cash, or even cash leaves a trail. More headaches to deal with. She didn't say anything when I entered. Moping around the darkness, she must have been able to see my silhouette. Did she think I was her boyfriend, back for an encore of that enthralling conversation? Can't ask her now. Hey! Yeah, did you hear that? These old pieces are so loud, and people aren't even familiar enough with that sound anymore to know to run the other way. Probably roused half the neighborhood. If I didn't see anything, I could use it as a partial suppressor on the way in. Could they really not afford some throw pillows? I used the other 5 bullets in outdoor spaces and small spheres of blind opportunity that the city's eyes couldn't think to pierce. Cramped place is usually full of trash, but this room, as cheap as it looks, is at least clean, organized even. So corpse adds a certain satisfying contrast. Except there's shit on the floor. By the western window, there are broken pieces of something fragile and tacky. It's fine. It's just one thing out of place. Actually, it's not fine. It's actually really irritating. I kicked over the stupid mirror. 5 perfect crime scenes, each of them not a speck of evidence, nothing to go on. And for the final shot, there's got to be a pile of crap in the corner, ruins everything. Kick the wall. Something falls off of it, probably more tasteless bullshit. Toss over the chair, knock the urn, tear into the sheets when my frustration tried to save the shredding. Even if it can't be clean, I'll just have to lean into the messy angle. At least it will be consistent. This was all so stupid. Not even the bragging type. Even I felt satisfied when the first 3 went down with single shots. After I did start to actively aim for the heart, but Heartbreak Killer? Really? No, that was someone else's name. They came up with it. They spread it. They marketed it. Besides, Heartbreak is a reclusive, socially impotent loser who shot 6 people because... Well, I'm sure the press will come up with something. That you got rejected one too many times or whatever. Me, I killed those people because I saw them and I wanted to. I've killed a lot more than just 6. At least the room is suitably tossed now. It took me a few moments, but I just walked away after seeing that mess by the window. It would have irritated me to no end. Good riddance, Heartbreak. You were far more trouble than you were worth. You enjoy your 15 minutes. I'm going home. The air is weighty tonight. Thick. Energized. A heavily foreshadowed summer rain I can feel on every... They call this kind of humidity oppressive, but I disagree. The warm tension in your skin, like in those short moments just after the shower turns off, when the steam lingers. Yeah, it's always most comfortable right afterwards. Maybe there's no disagreement to be had. Oppressive things can be comforting, too. Sirens. Only the guilty ones run. I don't know about that, but I know I've never felt guilt about any of this. And me, I walk. Okay. Okay. Like I said, I can see the comparisons to some of these other games. I can see it. It's different, though. It is different. There's a little less humor. There's a little more just manipulation going on. And I love that. I love manipulation. I love it. I love when a good character, and you don't suspect them, is bad. I love when it's just like a twist. Like, we didn't really have enough time, I think, to build up that she was bad. I don't know. It just seemed so natural. I didn't suspect her. Maybe some of you guys did. I didn't. So the fact that I didn't see it coming just made it so much better. So good. Like, we really should have been able to put it together. The start of the game kind of hinted at it. She's in a space that's, like, the only place that's not lit. Probably doesn't have any cameras there. She's just smoking a cigarette, you know. We know the game's of the devil. You know, she's kind of red and red-haired, you know. I don't know. Just seems like she would... It just fits, okay? It fits. She's, like, in these dark clothes and just seems kind of nice and innocent, and she helped him out. So good. I'm impressed now. It, like I said, different than some of these other games that it tries to compare itself to. I think this is a little different to me, but I like it. That's okay. You can just initial in those spots. I took a scenic route home and got in a bit after 11. Had myself a thorough shower, drank some water, did some stretching, made sure my phone was on. Time went by evenly. Around 1:40 a.m., a posting for public defender work came up. Decent rate since it was late and so urgent. I had wagered correctly that the boyfriend would have enough sense to ask for a lawyer and enough debt that he needed to be provided one. All I had to do was stay awake. There wasn't much competition after 1 in the morning. Okay, where else? Here and here. It would have been easy to convince Carlos to plead out, or just screw up his defense so badly he was going down for the Heartbreak Killings anyways. The easy is dangerous. Carlos was of course innocent, so his conviction would never be airtight. There would be doubts, questions, appeals. Maybe even fans depending on his looks. More attention on HK and his crimes, more headaches. A cold case rotting in that very far back of the public's awareness is always preferable to one open and shut in haste. Now with more murders matching HK's MO, there won't be any additional public pressure to find out a culprit. Now Heartbreak can just starve to death out of sight and mind like any other fluke in the system. Almost done. Getting involved with this case intimately had its risks, but this was worth it for the peace of mind, the finality. Seeing the authorities' failings from the best seat in the house was just a bonus. Thanks again, Morgan, for everything. I'm sure Diana's grateful too. Funny. I didn't even know her name. I really wish they would have ended the game right there. Just like, yeah, funny. I didn't even know her name. And then just cut back to the title screen. Or some kind of ending. Like, to be continued. I feel like that's where they should have ended it. That would have been good. I will say, though, you know who she reminds me of. Actually, I'm going to save it for the end. I'll save it for the end, okay? No more victims found, no more suspects to pursue. Because I really want to see how it does actually end. Because I feel like that would have been a good end. Huh, funny. Didn't know her name. All that's left now is for me to deal with. Hold it, Counselor Morgan. District Attorney Rockford. I'm guessing this is where the case is going to get interesting, because she's not going to give it up that easily. Sorry, can I try that again? Wow, okay. You are an interesting looking person. Very messy hair looking. Oh, Counselor Morgan. Morning, noon, or night, you're always so put together. Like you've gotten 11 hours of sleep the night before, with time for naps. God, I must have bags under my eyes dark enough for dumpster diving. Emma Rockford, she's a district attorney, a prosecutor who works for the city. And despite her sometimes unkempt appearance, she's probably the sharpest person to fill the position in decades. We've been in each other's respective orbit for a few months now. In that time, we negotiated, debated, and argued against each other in court. She has a remarkable ability to compartmentalize all that adversarial energy and bring it out in the courtroom. Part of what makes her good at her job. And hard for me to read. What have they got doing at this hour, then? Actually, I'm here for you. Me? Your client was a suspect in the Heartbreak Killings. That's my case. Well, then you must be relieved finding out that you won't have to go to trial against me. No, why would I be worried about going up against you? It's always the unintended barbs with her. So you're working with those detectives? Yeah, London and the new girl, Reyes. They've been reporting directly to me in preparation for trial. Preparation for trial? That seems ambitious. I guess they gave you the rundown. Yeah, okay. It's been rough going. Hard to catch a killer who leaves behind so little. It's hard to kill while leaving so little for you to find. So Reyes told you they had HK in custody and you popped out of bed all excited to run down here. Heh, hardly. I haven't been asleep in over 30 hours. Too much on my mind. So when I heard about a case of a single female victim shot through the heart, yeah, my ears perked up. Then I glanced at the report. Carlos Flat is no serial killer. He's definitely not HK. She means it, no middle name. No gunpowder residue on him. Too remorseful, too apologetic in that note, whatever it was about. His dominant armada with undocumented sensitivity issues never could have made the shots that clean, not without getting close enough to leave scorch marks. Top of that, of which too tall for ballistics entry angles and too heavy to not leave imprints. You got all that from a glance. But of course, I'm sure a competent lawyer like yourself pointed all that out the moment you walked in there. Of course. Worst part is she's not even being sarcastic. Yeah, of course, it couldn't have been him. Long-term relationship, no trouble holding jobs in the past, physically imposing, argumentative, so not the type to follow things up. He didn't match the profile. Profile? Right, sorry, you've probably never heard of it. I know what a profile is. Trying to get your dating profile just right can be a full-time job. Let Valentine take the reins of their automatic, secure, and confidential tools to put you back on your better than best foot forward and put the sexy back and find the right match. Okay. The reconstruction of criminal psychology. I am having trouble. Based on evidence from their crimes, fallen out of fashion over the last few decades, if you can imagine. I've had time to find some real fossils and oddballs to get advice on how to go about it. Some kind of investigative tool. A theory is that a crime can tell you something about the nature of the person who committed it. Stabbing, overkill. Points to rage, lust. They probably knew the victim. Poison and guns, meanwhile, suggest they can't physically overpower others. And then there's things you can assume about nearly all serial offenders. Childhood trauma, prior criminal record, few or no meaningful attachments. There's a lot of reoccurring themes in their stories. What sort of story are you spinning for HK? It's not a happy one. HK is diligent, almost perfect, but that absence of evidence actually tells us a lot about our killer. Even if it's hard to say what he is like. Interesting that she assumes it's a he. It's easy to tell that he isn't like Carlos Flat. How so? Getting away with murder like this takes more than just planning. HK must be highly intelligent, painstakingly organized, or fluid, or connected enough to get their hands on an untagged firearm. Probably a lone wolf, educated, feel like they're overqualified or undervalued in considering their marksmanship. The detective did mention that HK would need insider information on optics. Does that mean Heartbreak's in law enforcement? Heartbreak is a misnomer, and law enforcement, frankly, I doubt it. Oh, it's too visible an occupation, with too thorough an application process. They could charm their way through any given conversation, but they can't fool everyone all the time, right? Be too difficult lying to cops all the time. Maybe a secondary or territorial relation to the police. They can't help but insert themselves. Yeah, the way she said that, like they're a secondary to the police. Like they work with the police, but they're not police. Wait, but if they're not a cop, how do they know about the blackout timing? Crime meta statistics analysis, probably. Pardon? Take the police response times from across the city, map them out. Look for brief spikes and delays, chart out the dips, and... Oh, sorry, technically, no. But all the requisite data is publicly available. Anyone could do it if they wanted to. That's such an unpleasant thought. Whoever they are, they're not vain, unfortunately. Few could resist the chance to go to the police or media about getting away with the murder 6 times in a row. You know, whole 6 times. Mind-blowing. You won't find them standing out in a crowd. They're a blank slate, a chameleon. Specifically charming. Superficially charming, with no substance to back it up. A terminal mask swapper. It's rare to see her this animated outside the courtroom. It's almost like she's enjoying herself. The crimes with no sadism, but there's no remorse either. The bodies were just left there on the ground like they weren't even worth anything anymore. Your words, not mine. All of which is to say they're not easy to categorize, and they're no traditional psychopath. Psychopath, really, what year is this? First with a low social empathy inventory score, if you prefer. If you want to diagnose your killer for hysteria while you're at it, go right ahead. Maybe I will. Parts of this are based on some old-fashioned thinking, and I'm sure it can sound like I'm just guessing. But the one thing I do know is that these aren't his only kills. Weren't there other shootings with the same MO? Other victims that look similar? No, not that I've found. It's just... No one can kill like that when it's their first time. Getting things like that perfect takes practice. I'm afraid this person has had a lot of practice, Morgan. That's why I said Heartbreak is a misnomer. You got something catchier in mind. Truth is, I think shooting in the heart is just a testament to their accuracy and their efficiency. The best possible use of 6 untagged bullets. Their real signature isn't the bullets of the gun, it's the perfection. That's really hard. That's hard to wrap your head around. I'm saying these 6 murders were just a fluke, a slip-up, a mistake? Exactly, a mistake. They got too clean, too efficient, now they got the public's attention. Must be the kind of mistake for someone with no ego to speak of. No ego? How's that? Yeah, that must be a real Buddha. Or a real devil. Whew, okay, that was pretty morbid and detailed. I need to get out more. I'm always happy to listen to you ramble about something or another. It's a lot more pleasant than having to face you in the courtroom. Sorry, but that's adversarial process. So no hard feelings, yeah? No hard feelings. We're both doing what we do. I could use a cup of coffee, how about you? Don't tempt me. You can fall asleep face first on the table and I won't even take a picture. Okay, just don't expect me this to make a difference next time we're at each other's throats. HK won't claim any more victims. Before that week's through, the media will have moved on to the next sensation. The police will have moved on to cases they actually have a chance of closing. It's what people do. But Emma is different. She'll set aside work in a dozen other cases, never bringing it up again. But a private corner of that frustratingly sharp mind of hers will continue to whittle away at it. Never finishing, but never quitting either. So I can't afford to take my eyes off of her. As long as that's the case, I may as well try to enjoy the view. That ending little scene right there was perfect. I loved the build up to it, with her kind of like laying out the case like it was nothing, and then just kind of hinting at it possibly being Morgan. Like, she didn't really like accuse her or anything. She just kind of said, "Oh yeah, it's someone in this kind of position, the secondary to the police." It was so good, and I loved her just kind of leaning over. It just looked like something the devil would do. The devil would just kind of lean over, smiling, you know, but you can tell that they have its ulterior motives. So you're gonna be living with my friend for a while. Ooh, perfect. We have something to push us into the next. I've gotten way too excited about this game. I'm like, wow, that was good. Just the reveal of her and just the way they did it. I got so invested in the story. I don't feel like I was really like thinking of her being the devil, even though it makes sense, right? For how long? I'm sorry, I don't know. There's no need to look that upset over. My face barely moved. Well, it may as well have been a blatant pout to me. This friend of yours, they're trustworthy. Absolutely. In fact, I trust them more than anyone. Hey, come on, it'll be fun. Really, really educational too. I think you could stand to learn a lot more from someone like Morgan. The great thing about this too, this was the prologue. This wasn't even the main game. You could have made that into its own game and just ended it before you just showed the android there at the end. You could have ended that, and that would have already been a fantastic game. I would have rated that very highly. But this was just the start. So if they can keep this momentum going in throughout a whole game, An Idle Mind, written and directed by Brian Mulholland, environments and programming by Patrick, with art and art direction by Evil Little Bug. They did a fantastic job. The art was great. I would have changed a few more like UI type things. I would have changed maybe a way to like see what things in the environment, like make them pop out more. Like, oh, you know, this thing is like a little bit more like colored in and things than other things in the environment to show like, hey, I can click on that. I think a person who does a really good job at that is Lazy Tiger. I play a lot of his games, and he always makes the things that you can click on very, they stand out from everything else. So I would change that maybe a little bit. Overall, I mean, not too bad. Made with Unity, yeah. Of the devil. Press escape, then click the power icon to return to the main menu. Okay, we'll do that. Sure you want to click to the title screen. Okay. There was a lot of great things to like about this. Let me go through some of them with you guys. Let me give you some of my thoughts. First of all, I want to tell you what I was holding in that entire time. I wouldn't compare this to a lot of the games that they mentioned. I wouldn't compare this to the Somnium Files and I've never played Ace Attorney. I can't compare it to that. I wouldn't even compare it to Danganronpa too much. Maybe a little bit. I think there's things taken from all those games, so I wouldn't compare it to those. You actually know what I would compare it to the most? I would compare this to Death Note. And if you've watched Death Note or read it, I think you'd understand why. I think there's this kind of cat and mouse type thing. We find out the main character, who's this like really nice person and good guy, whatever, good girl in this case. I think that's who Morgan is. Morgan is Light Yagami. That is who I would definitely compare her to the most. I think she is someone who's unassuming. They look like a nice person, you know. They act like they're this and that, but they're actually this. I think that's who I'd compare her to. Now, does she have the same ambition of like changing the world and killing criminals? No, not necessarily in that case. But I don't know. She gives off a big Light Yagami vibe, and I feel like the attorney there at the end, and the DA. Sorry, I'm blanking on her name. I just didn't really catch it. Um, I think she's pretty much going to be like our L in this case. I think that's kind of what I got from that. That's the biggest vibe I got there, right there at the end, and then just the leaning over, the very devilish smirk on her face, and things like that. Like, oh, this will be fun. Like she wants excitement. She wants a challenge to her. Like she's like, hey, I'm just killing. I'd like to learn more about her motives first. That'd be nice too. There's a lot going on here, and I love the transition from the title screen to actually playing. That was fantastic. There's a few minor things I have a problem with, and I kind of mentioned them already. Like, I would like the objects you need to click to be highlighted more. I feel like that just helps the player. That's just such a minor thing, though. It's like I can, of course, move my mouse around and find things. Use my head, like what looks like it would be something, but I think the encyclopedia thing they had with the little notes and messages, I think that was cool. It gave a lot of detail, a lot of world building that it was optional. I like optional world building, but something that like is easy enough to get. Unfortunately, if I clicked past it, there wasn't a way to go back and look at it. There wasn't a way to like go back to the previous text. At least not that I saw. There might be, but as far as I could tell, there wasn't. So like a way to look at hints that we've seen but haven't clicked on would be nice. I think Steins Gate does a good job of this. They add things to your kind of encyclopedia that you can look at, and you can go back and click on them at any time. So maybe change that. Maybe add that so I don't have to click on the moment to get it. But maybe it was in there and I just didn't look. I have no idea. But if you have to click on it, I would change it so it just adds it to there and you can go back anytime. So that was good. This was a long prologue. I will say that, though. They really introduced you to the game. And I'm wondering, can they keep that momentum from here? I feel like that was really exciting, and you could have just made the game that. Like, you could have just left it there, and I would have been happy with it. But if you're going to make a full project, what can they do to keep this momentum going? I think that's what's going to truly make this a game that can stand up to those other games that it was compared to. If they can keep the momentum, keep the interest, still make it interesting, still have plot twists, because you kind of used your big plot twist right there, like, Morgan is the devil in this case, right? I think you needed to do something like that to really engage people in this first prologue, but I just want to see that energy continue to move on to chapter 1, chapter 2, how many ever chapters they make. If they can keep that going and keep it interesting, I will definitely say that you could put this game up there with some of those other great detective kind of stories. But for now, I'm optimistic but skeptical. Okay, I'm gonna throw that out there. This intro was good, but if it can keep that going, if I can still say each chapter is just as good, then you got a great game. But for now, I really like this. I really have a lot of great things to say about this. Wasn't expecting to like it nearly as much as I did. Maybe that's why I liked it so much, because I have expectations, though. I was like, I don't know. You're comparing yourself to really some high things up there. I don't know if you'll be able to match that. I really want to see in chapter 1, I want to see more world building. There needs to continue to be that strong world building. That was something that really made this great, too. I think strong world building introduced us to new interesting characters. I really like the ones they had. I thought they were interesting, and I hope we get to see more of of what was her name, Farah, and then what was his name? I'm blanking. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. I really have to play more to get their names down. I can picture his face though. I want to learn more about those two, and see if they'll be more involved in the next cases. I wonder if they'll kind of wisen up and start like figuring her out a little bit. Anyways, I'm gonna end it here. We're almost at the 2 hour mark. I've just had so much. Actually, I am at the 2 hour mark now. I've just had so much to say about this game, and I'm very excited about it. Like this, like kind of made my morning afternoon here. Really excited about it. So yeah, I mean that's about all I'm gonna say. I'm excited for chapter 1. If anyone knows when chapter 1's coming out, message me. Or if the creator wants to, if they watch this, hit me up when chapter 1 comes out. I'll play it. Um, but yeah, so I appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I really hope I'm not the only one sitting here like, wow, this game was amazing. And someone's like, yeah, it's kind of cliche. It's kind of whatever. I think it was really good. I'll just leave it at that. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you. Make sure to support the creators of this game and play chapter 1 when it comes out for yourself, because it's really cool. I hope chapter 1's just as good. And I shall see you guys then. Have a good one.